Hello, I'm Sriram Lakshman, a foreign correspondent and associate editor with The Hindu. A lot's been going on in Europe over the last few days, and there's a lot going on today, and the action's going to continue through the weekend. Starting with the European parliamentary elections between June 6th and June 9th, we then saw the French President Emmanuel Macron dissolving France's National Assembly, the lower chamber of its legislature, on June 9th as results of the European parliamentary elections were coming in. Right now, we've got the G7 summit going on in Puglia, Italy. A number of non-G7 country heads of government and heads of state have been invited. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also be attending that. He is flying to Italy on Thursday. Following the G7 summit, the action moves to Switzerland with the Ukraine Peace Summit to be held at Bergenstock, which is a resort above Lake Lucerne. So what are the major takeaways from the European parliamentary elections? First is that it looks like centrist parties have retained their power. Next, far-right parties increased their numbers, while Green and progressive parties did do well. They were weakened overall, although their performance across different EU member states varied. The EPP, which is the centre-right European People's Party, won the largest number of seats. That is the party of outgoing European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. They won 189 seats, which is a gain of 13 seats. Yet it's not a given that Ms. von der Leyen will win a second term. She needs 361 seats to do that. And she is in discussion with the Renew group, which is the group that has Emmanuel Macron's party in it, as well as a group called the Socialists and Democrats. And between them, the EPP, Renew, and Socialists and Democrats will have 407 seats in the 720-seat body. Whether or not this provides enough room for defections when the secret ballots are cast in mid-July remains to be seen. That will determine whether Ms. von der Leyen's position is secure. She'll also need support from the 27 EU member state heads who are part of the European Council. We can expect her to be lobbying some of them at the G7 meeting this weekend. So before the results of the European parliamentary elections were known, there was some discussion between Ms. von der Leyen's party as well as parties to the further right. So she was in discussion with the European Conservatives and Reformists, a group led by right-wing or far-right Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. Giorgia Meloni was also being courted by France's far-right leader Marine Le Pen, whose party did very well, the National Rally Party, or RN. Her party is part of the Identity and Democracy, the name's very telling, Identity and Democracy ID group in the European Parliament. So Ms. Meloni had a very good week, and she's also the host of the G7 in Italy. And she was quoted as saying on Monday, quote, "Today there are opportunities to change the European picture that have never existed before," unquote. So the center-right did well in a number of countries like Greece, Hungary, Poland, Spain, and Germany. It did badly in France, and we'll come to that in a bit. Sunday night was also a very good night for the far right in the two largest EU economies, Germany and France. In Germany, the scandal-ridden far-right Alternative for Germany, AfD, secured 16% of the vote, a jump of over 5% from the 2019 elections. More importantly, it came ahead of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's Social Democratic Party, a center-left party. The center-right Christian Democratic Union, Christian Social Union, CDU-CSU, came first by a mile, securing 30% of the vote. So one of the people who fared the worst from Sunday night's results was French President Emmanuel Macron. His party got half the vote share of RN, Marine Le Pen's far-right party. And these results sent shockwaves all the way to the Élysée Palace, the seat of the French president. And Mr. Macron announced that he was dissolving the lower chamber of France's legislature, the National Assembly, and new elections were called for June 30th with a runoff round on July 7th. Now, Mr. Macron is known to be a political gambler, and what he's doing is essentially calling the bluff of the French people. So he said, quote, France needs a clear majority to act in serenity and harmony, unquote. At the center of this political upset for Mr. Macron is a 28-year-old with some 1.2 million followers on TikTok. His name is Jordan Bardella. He is the leader of Marine Le Pen's far-right party, RN, and he's been tapped by her to be the next Prime Minister of France if RN wins a majority in the National Assembly. Mr. Macron and his allies currently do not have a majority in the 577 body National Assembly, so policy making has been very difficult, and it's been held hostage to filibusters after Mr. Macron lost his majority in the 2022 elections. So calling an election is a gamble because Mr. Macron's party could emerge worse after the elections. Some reporting suggests that Mr. Macron wants to give the French public a chance to experience the RN ahead of the presidential elections in 2027. He himself can't run in 2027 because there's a term limit and he's already in his second term and he cannot seek a third term. A more straightforward explanation for why he's calling an election now, rather than giving the French public a taste of what it is to be governed by the RN, is that simply Mr. Macron is hoping the gamble pays off. And it has paid off before for other French presidents, such as in 1968, when President Charles de Gaulle emerged stronger after he had dissolved the assembly following widespread public unrest. But sometimes these gambles don't pay off. And in 1997, French President Jacques Chirac tried a similar move, which backfired. So currently, Marine Le Pen's party, RN, has 88 seats in parliament, and opinion polls suggest that it could considerably increase its seats following the election. Mr. Bardella has campaigned on issues such as the cost of living, jobs, French identity. Ironically, he himself is the son of an Italian immigrant. You'll recall that Marine Le Pen's party, RN, is part of the Identity and Democracy group in the European Parliament, which did very well. So identity questions are going to be at the center of this campaign for the National Assembly in France. Next, the G7 summit in Italy. Prime Minister Modi has been invited to this. The heads of a number of non-G7 countries have been invited. Several topics are on the agenda for discussion. Among these is a EU-US possible loan of $50 billion to Ukraine. This will be provided for, according to reports, from profits of frozen Russian assets. These discussions have run into complications. That's been the recent reporting around this. Also up for discussion is the conflict in West Asia between Israel and Hamas. The Indo-Pacific will be discussed. China, artificial intelligence, overcapacity in manufacturing in China. Migration is a big issue for Italy from the continent of Africa. So Africa, the continent of Africa, migration and development will also be discussed in Italy over the next 2 days. And there will be an opportunity for Prime Minister Modi to have pull-asides with G7 leaders, as well as the leaders from other countries who have been invited. And these other countries are Brazil, Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Kenya, Turkey, and so forth. The Pope has also been invited. My colleague Suhasini Haidar has previewed Mr. Modi's trip, and in that she reports that Foreign Secretary Vinay Quatra declined to comment on whether Mr. Modi will meet his Canadian counterpart, Justin Trudeau. You'll recall that the Canadian government has alleged that Indian government agents had killed Khalistani separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada last year. New Delhi has accused Ottawa of being soft on anti-Indian extremism. So these are tensions between the two countries. A statue of Mahatma Gandhi near the resort where the leaders are staying was reportedly vandalized, with slogans relating to Mr. Nijjar sprayed across the statue. The Foreign Secretary has condemned the vandalism. Mr. Quatra also confirmed that India will participate in the Ukraine Peace Summit. There isn't a name yet, however, for the representative. The Hindu had also reported that India will be represented at the official, not political level. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky tweeted on June 6th that he had spoken with Mr. Modi to congratulate him about the election results, and that he had indicated that he hoped that India would be represented at the highest level at the peace conference. Nearly 90 countries are attending the conference in Switzerland. Russia has not been invited, and Moscow's message has been that it would not have attended anyway, even if invited. The Swiss government has acknowledged that there cannot be peace without Russia's involvement, and they've said that it's not a question of whether Russia will be brought on board for these discussions, but when it will be included. China and Brazil have said they will not participate unless both sides, Russia and Ukraine, are involved. So they are not expected to attend. The US will be represented at the summit in Switzerland by Vice President Kamala Harris and National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan. The agenda for the Peace Summit includes coming up with a roadmap for peace, nuclear security, food security, and humanitarian aid for Ukraine. That's it for now from me. Thanks for watching.